Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. What we're going to do today is do a combination of multiple elements that we've done previously as well as learn some new material. Now some of the new material that we are going to be learning is we're going to go into the layer area and basically create a couple new elements here, and also we're going to go into how to create text today. Now we're going to keep the text relatively simple, doing things like a fade in, fade out title sequence and just some end credits. So we'll just keep that simple for that. Now the objective is taking some of the stuff that we've done previously. We're going to make a small little animatic out of the storyboard. So this is going to go a little bit further than what we've done previously, in the sense that we're going to add some extra motion to help make these pictures come alive. Now we're not going to go too crazy with this yet, but elements like around here, we're going to play around a little bit with the scaling, a little bit of rotation, maybe a little movement. We'll see how things go. To get started with this, I'm just going to turn this off. And what I'm going to do with this as well is I'm going to keep this the color that we have for the background. Now in terms of just some of the other elements we have over here, again, still size of HD 720. Frame rate of 24 frames a second. In terms of the duration, we are going to use about, let's see, it's going to be, I'm figuring since it's going to be 12 frames, we're going to need at least 24 seconds to be able to see that stuff. But I'm also going to add 5 seconds minimum for the title. You want to make sure that your audience will have enough time to see the actual title itself. And an additional 5 seconds, we may add more time depending on how things go. For the end credits, because we want to make sure that we leave enough time for the rolling credits for people to be able to see. And we might have to change this up as we progress. Of course, I'll show you how to fix that as we go. So let's see. So 24 plus an additional 10. Why don't we just put this at an odd 35, just to be safe. And if it goes a little over, so be it. Fantastic. Okay. So, first thing, as I said, we need to basically make a title area around here. That's going to be pretty simple. First thing we need to do, though, is we need to add a little bit of black, because what I want to do is I want this to fade from black to our actual project itself, and plus this is a good opportunity to learn some new material. So I'm going to go to Layer. This is where you would find something called a solid, although you can create some other objects as well. Let's just focus on the solid at this time. So Layer, New, Solid, and it'll basically just give you this look over here. Now the information that's here is basically the size of the actual composition. Only thing you really need to change is basically the color. And in this case, I'm just going to change the color straight to black and hit OK. And hit OK again. So you'll see it takes up the entire timeline. We don't need it to take up that much time, not even close, but we will need it for about 5 seconds. So just putting my timeline there. I'm going to scale out and bring this area over. Again, if you need this to be exact, just zoom in like I did with the little zoom over here. Perfect. So that's step 1. Step 2, I need to put in my text. So I'm just going to go somewhere around the middle, go to the text, and I'm going to name this Cooking by Prof S. Now I'm not going to keep this too complicated for now. But again, I just hit the little T over here, similar to what we've done in previous softwares. And again, if you look at the character area over here, you could change this to whatever you need to in terms of your text. Again, since I'm going to keep this for screen, I think I'd want to keep this as a serif. So let's see if we can find something a little bit more appropriate. I think either an Arial or something the like. A sans serif might be a better choice for us. Perhaps Helvetica might be a better choice. I won't keep it too long on this. Nah, I think I like this one better. So yeah, I think we're good. Okay. Now I'm also going to make sure that the size is what I need it to be. This is actually a pretty good size, I think, so I don't really need to change this too much. If I need to, I can change the paragraph so it could be more toward the center. And you could also play around with the alignments and so on. I think at this point, though, I think I'm pretty good. So I'm just going to keep it like this. Excellent. Now, again, you want to make sure it's big enough that people can actually see it. In fact, actually looking at this now, I think I might want to actually go back. So if I need to change any of the text, I can go to my text area over here, make sure that the actual text is selected, and I can just click and drag, or just click this area once if you want to be extra safe. But I can select all my text over here like so, go to my character, I'll change this to 100. This should do the job just fine. Fantastic. And once again, I'm going to zoom this out. And you might accidentally hear my cat in the background. I do apologize about that. But yeah, so what I'm going to do here is similar to an earlier lecture that I had. I want to zoom, I basically want to make the opacity for this fade in and fade out. So once again, I'm going to select the actual T for opacity. Not sure why they decided that should be the actual shortcut key, but there we are. So T for opacity. And what I'd recommend, at least for trying to get a good looking fade, I'd say a person's going to need at least half a second minimum. So I'm going to zoom in. That's going to be around the 12 frame range, more or less. And I'm going to add my keyframe here. And then all I would need to do the fade part is I can basically click and drag the 100% to 0. And you'll notice that I have this kind of interesting fade. All right. And I'm basically going to do the same thing for the other side. Go to the 5-second route. Again, it's going to be about second 4, frame 12. And I'm going to go to my little add remove keyframe here. And then at exactly 5 seconds, I'm going to put this to 0. And with that, if I hit the play, you're seeing it's fading in and fading out. Now, just to be a little extra safe, because I think that just this all of a sudden change to from black to white is a little startling, I'm also going to add a key for the fading in of this area. So I'm zooming in using this little zoom option. Now remember, when you're zooming in, wherever your time slider is, or time indicator is, that's basically where you're going to focus your zooming in. So, and again, I usually recommend to actually put the time indicator where you want your animation to start. In this case, it's going to be second 4, frame 12. And yeah, same thing before, T for opacity, hit your stopwatch, then go to where you want the fade out for, and just change this from 100% to 0. And that's it. So let's take a look at this. Fade in and fade out. So it looks a little bit nicer when you go from the fade. All right. So similar to what I did before, I'm going to, before that, just got to clean up my timeline a little bit. I'm going to bring in my stock picture. You'll notice that it's significantly bigger than what we had before. And I just think for the sake of time, I'm just going to focus on just a couple of the pictures themselves, ones that might have a little bit of motion to them. Yeah, so basically I'm definitely going to go with this one, and this one, and this one. And I think I actually have enough time to do all of them. So yeah, here's my first one. Again, I'm just going to hit the actual square button. Going to click and drag this up so I can focus on my person. And I can use the pan behind tool to basically put the pivot point where it needs to be. Of course, the fun part is locating where that pivot point is. There we are. And then scale this little picture so it's roughly the size we need this to be. Now I'm just going to get all the sizes done first. And did get this from Shutterstock. This is, from what I was able to tell, a picture that was free to use, at least at this time. And I think that should be fine. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And once again, I'm just going to have this as long as I need it. So it's going to start at frame, or second 5, I should say. And it's going to be here for 2 seconds. So that's going to be 7 over here. And there we are. Okay, so I'm going to add in another picture. And let's see here. Okay, once again, going to use my mask, specifically using the square over here. There we are. And once again, with this properly selected, I can actually redo this. Use the pan behind tool while this one's selected. There we go. And scale this. And just make sure it's as big as you need it. And just for the sake of time, I think this is actually looking pretty good so far. And once again, just make sure that it's exactly as much as you need it. Now, when you actually do a storyboard or animatic, which is what the end goal for this is going to be, the amount of time that you have for your page is going to be completely dependent on what your needs are at the time. In this case, since I'm just want the pictures to be seen kind of quick, that's why I'm doing it 2 seconds per frame. But if you find that doesn't work, maybe you need some more time, maybe you need some less time, there's no real set amount of time for this. You just have to basically go with what you feel works best for your situation. Fantastic. And just rinse and repeat. Again, if you don't need the other ones up, you can always just turn off the scale. It does save a little bit of time on your timeline. Theoretically, you could have as many layers as necessary. I wouldn't go too crazy with this though, because it can start to add up very quickly. And the more frames that you have, the more of a challenge this is going to be when it comes to manipulating and so on. Ooh, that was close. There we are. Now, this is what I was talking. Before that, I have to actually move that first. There we are. And once again, I'm going to scale this. So that this works nicer. There we are. Fantastic. All right. Now, as I was saying before, if a person wants to, they actually could add some animation to the actual storyboard to give it a little bit more depth, or if they just want to have whatever their picture is to have a bit of a better look to it. So what I would do here is I'm just going to focus on that particular part. And yeah, for the first second, I'm just going to leave it alone. But at the second, I'm going to actually have it look like it's like this person's pressing the button. Now, for this illusion, I'm just going to use the scale for this. And again, I'm going to add a scale for the first frame and then the last part of the animation. So I'm not going to keep this very long. So basically maybe half a second. Yeah, there we are. And somewhere between the two, I'm going to scale this quite a bit, like this, as if to give the illusion that the person is pressing a button. So nothing for a moment. That's it. If I want to make this faster, I could always bring the keys a little closer, and that's a little bit of a pro tip there. If you want faster motion, put your keys closer like this. Yeah, so that was a little too fast, but it does illustrate my point very nicely. That being said, if you want a slower motion, put those keys further away from each other. Now, this is going to be a huge factor when we start getting into 2D animation a little bit later, but at least for now, this should illustrate the point. Yeah, look at how slow that is. And that's okay, depending on what you're trying to do. So let's see how that works with the keys a little bit faster like this. Oop. It could be a little faster. All right. Perfect. All right. Well, that's looking nice. Okay, so just bring that in. And once again, just going to second 11. Bam. Now again, I'm not going to take too much longer because I do want to make sure that I can show you the last part of this lecture. So again, if you want to get creative with some of the motions, that all depends on your imagination. So what I can do next, in terms of me showing off what else I can do with this, I can do, instead of doing a scale, I can also do a rotation. Like for example, if I want to really emphasize the opening of this oven, I can first, like I've done before, get the part of the frame that I need. Once again, use the pan behind tool to put this over in the corner, but I'm not going to actually put it in the center this time. I'm actually going to scale this from this corner this time, and you'll see the reason why momentarily. Perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, instead of scaling for my motion, and before I do that, I'm going to fix my timeline. It's just trying to keep things well organized. Again, if I'm going every 2 seconds, there we are. Okay, so I'm just going to hit the button, and what I'm going to do with this next frame is, again, I'm going to try and mimic the little arrow that I have over here, and that's going to look pretty nice. So once I have this exactly where I need to be, I'm going to use the rotation. I'm just going to move this out of here. This should be normal and okay in this case. Though it wouldn't be a bad idea for me to have the rotation area over here. And it looks like it's put at a value of -88. That's fine. And I'm going to add my keyframe by hitting the stopwatch, similar to what I did before. And I'm going to have this actually take half a second to go back to its default position, which is going to be over here. Now again, if you want this to be exactly flat or not rotated, I'm going to just change that right number to 0. And let's see how this looks. Not too shabby. But that's one of the reasons why having a pivot point in the center can be helpful in certain situations, but there might be some other situations where you can change the pivot point, put it someplace unique, and you can use that to help your animation. So again, nice little pro tip right there. So we won't take too much longer with this. There's about 1 or 2 more frames I'd like to do, and then I'll show you how to make an ending sequence. So once again, going to go to my picture, bring that down, and going to bring that back. That's going to be put to 15 seconds. So just zoom in the best you can. There we are. Fantastic. Okay. And what I'll do for the last two is I'll take the picture of this and actually do a little bit of motion, and then I'll just have the girlfriend's expression as she's happy that she gets a well-deserved meal. So I'm going to use once again, the square tool, focus on what's necessary. Use the pan behind tool. In this case, I could put it in the middle. No, shouldn't be any problems there. Use the scale and make this bigger. Fantastic. Okay. Now, to help with this, I'm going to just do a quick little motion going upwards. So again, I'm going to hit P for position. Going to hit the keyframe. Actually, before that, since I want this to look like it's going upwards or give the illusion of upwards, move this off screen. Remember, hold Shift if you want it to move completely straight up or down. Now I'm going to add my key. Once again, take about half a second. But again, always feel free to play around with the motion. That's the whole point of this. Let's see how this looks. The space bar. It seems to go a little too fast. That's all right, though. Because now I can use the actual arrow over here. Take this keyframe, move it to exactly 14 seconds. There we are. Let's see how this looks now. Not too shabby. I'm liking that better. Cool. All right. So just the last picture we're going to get for now is we're going to put this exactly to 15 seconds. And a little too much. Again, if you zoom in too far, like I just did, you can always go to the little magnifying area that we have over here, fit this, and we are good. I thought that I had the arrow selected over here. And again, this might help you in the future. If you hit V for victory, this will get you to the selection tool. Might save you a little bit of hassle later on. Okay. By the way, the picture was provided by Shutterstock. If any of you need some pictures, they're a good place to go for this. So yeah, there we are. And I hope that's a happy look on her face. Yeah, but we're just going to scale this to make this a little bit bigger. And again, it's usually a good idea to move your pivot point before doing that. Whoops. That's okay. But I definitely want to change the pivot point now. Okay. If you ever find yourself in a place where you can't find the pivot point, you could always try to use the rotate option, and that usually gives you a good idea of where it is. Okay. Though in this case, it seems to actually do a pretty good job, so I'm actually just going to keep it like this. Perfect. All right, so just going to fix up the ends. Now later on in class, we'll go over shortcut keys to make this way faster. There we are. Okay. So what we'll do is we're going to take this expression that she has and we're going to zoom in a little on the eyes. Not too much, though. So once again, at the beginning, we're going to hit a scale over here. Then we're going to go to the end and just scale this slightly. That's it. I think we're done with most of the pictures I just wanted to show. Again, the whole purpose of this was to just show how to make a quick little Animatic out of the storyboard that already exists, and also show the importance of making sure that you add in a picture that basically is good quality so that when you zoom in, it just moves and looks way better. I'm thinking that's looking like a pretty good animatic right there. So with our animatic done, we are going to just add a small little ending credits. Now we're going to start off similar to what we've done before. Now the good news about solids, once you've made the color that you want, you don't really need to make it again, because my black solid, as you can see, is right over here. I'm going to bring that down and just make sure it goes right after. And again, I would recommend when it comes to any kind of text, just so that your audience has a chance to read it, make sure that you give yourself a good buffer of 3 to 5 seconds. In this case, I'm going to keep this roughly, let's see, 17, 20, 20. Let's put this to an even 22. That should give me more than enough time for my credits. Okay. Now I'm also going to go to my composition settings, and since I don't need the full 35, I'm just going to put this to 22, the actual size I need. And it's not unusual for a person to need more or less time depending on what their objective is. In this case, definitely need to subtract the time that I have. Oh, also a little bit of a future note. If you do have any text, it's always a good idea to make sure that you have some kind of solid color behind it, depending on how you approach this, of course. Well, that's pretty much it. So what I would do for this is I would go to my text, and I'm just going to make some quick ending credits. So ending credits. And my characters, font is fine. Again, a little bit of a pro tip. Make sure that when you are doing anything with credits or titles, 2 important pro tips, I should say. 1, make sure that the spelling is right. I have seen some people lose potential jobs because the people they were interviewing with noticed some bad spelling errors, and it just didn't look good on them in terms of their professionalism. So in short, take a moment or two just to make sure everything's spelled correctly. Then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to my paragraph and putting this next one over to the side. So now if it looks a little bit off, which in this case it kind of does, well, what I'm going to do for this is I'm just going to keep them both the same. Yeah, so I'll just put the paragraph on both of these to the side. So ending credits. I can always move that title later. Animation. Pro F. And once again, I'm just going to take a look at where I got this picture from, making sure I give proper credit where credit's due. And I got this from Shutterstock, so I'm going to make sure I actually put them in here. So once again, I'm going to go to my text and picture provided by Shutterstock. Again, if you're not sure if it's spelled right, yep, Shutterstock. And give yourself a little space if you can. Wouldn't be a bad idea to make another composition completely, just so that you can test this out, but this is fine. Okay, and once again, I'm just trimming the text area over here. There we are. Okay, and if I'm doing rolling credits, I definitely don't want to be too close. So all you need to do to just make some simple rolling credits is just click and drag your text outside of where it needs to be seen, and then just basically do a quick little P for position, off screen first, and just make sure it goes by with about 1 second of buffer. Ideally, that's what you would want. And again, I'm just having this go off the screen. Let's give it a play. Honestly, I probably should have an extra second. So I'm going to add an extra second over here. So it's going to be an odd 23, but that's all right. I'm going to move this a full second to the right. But of course, don't forget that you might need to give yourself a little bit more time. Now, let's see how it looks now. That's a little better. I think at least for what we're doing right now, that should be fine. So let's take a look at the whole shebang. So now that I have this done, there we are. We're just going to give our little animatic a quick little play. And it looks like our video, at least visually, is all but done. Fantastic. Okay, so next videos, we're going to get into a little bit of sound and also how to actually export what we have. Obviously, we want to make sure that we can share this with whoever we need to. So once again, thank you for coming by, and hopefully you found this video educational and somewhat entertaining. And I'll see you guys on the next one.